All right.
Verification succeeded. Please check low temperature.
What's going on, ladies?
How you doing this morning? Turn
Good.
around for me, please.
All right. So my day starts like this here, before the pandemic hit. Individual comes into the office. Amber. I get a call that we have so-and-so, Mr. John Doe, that's here to see me. So when you meet a person head on at the door and welcome them in, you see the weight goes off their shoulder, you know. So then when you bring them in and sit them down, somebody told me about Dwight, Pridgeon, who is the reentry coordinator. I said, yeah, okay. And he said, well, I'm a convicted felon. So then that gives me the opportunity to let them in. Once they let me in, I said, okay, I am too. And they really relax down because they know there's somebody else there. So then we go all into the intake assessment application. Then we always ask the question, you know, are you a convicted felon? Are you a registered voter? Some of them said, can I vote? I said, if you completed your probation and parole and restitution and all. Some of them don't want to vote. So then you have to build up that stigma again and tell them the real reason why you should vote, you know.
I think the main thing is that like the police would have less responsibility if civilians could protect themselves. There wouldn't be as much of a need for them.
It is not one of the top causes of death. The top gun death, as we said earlier, is from suicides. So the best way to prevent gun death would be better mental health education.
Okay, so we're going to stop here. We'll have our closing statements by each group, and then we will finish it out.
I'm really excited to vote this year. This is like a really big year for politics. I would say I'm lucky to be turning 18 before November 3rd, because I feel like this is like a really important election. I don't know if it's because it was the first one that I really knew a lot of information about, but I don't know. I think that this one's going to be a really big deal. I think I'm going to try and go to the polls, not because of mail-in ballots, which I am kind of scared about. Like whenever I send in my voter registration, I send it in like 2 weeks early because I know that you have to allow time for it to be like get to the place and to be counted. So like I was checking every day before October 5th to make sure that I was registered. But I am going to try and do early voting so I can kind of avoid the crowds. But I do want to go to the polls myself. Also just so I can have that experience of doing it. Yeah, I do feel a lot of pressure to vote because like I see so much like on social media about how my vote matters and about how important it is to vote. With this election, like the sides are so divided, I don't think anyone is still undecided about who they're going to vote for. So I do think it is really important to get out there and vote, especially right now.
Local government at its best is ground level to what happens at your home's kitchen table as it relates to policies that impact each of us. And so we have to pay attention to all races. And when we pay attention to all races and understanding that our voting impacts, it impacts our daily life on who is going to be the school board member that's going to be the governing body for the students that may be our sons and our daughters. We need to understand who is going to lead our respective cities and our counties. We need to understand if you have an issue with your child, we need to know who the juvenile judge is. You need to know that and understand that they have a heart for children, but also a heart for accountability, that they understand empathy as we continue to move forward. So we must understand the entire ballot from the president to the school board member.
It goes from there. So we're trying to do a lot, get people involved. They thinking they're convicted felon, and a lot of them don't realize they still can vote once they off for probation or parole, and they don't know that. Because right here, what we have here, we do have a spreadsheet, intake spreadsheet, and you notice on one of the questions that it simply asks the individual. When we do our intake on them, we definitely ask the question, are you a registered voter? And we definitely had to start that now because, see here, this is no, yes, and it go all the way. And I do that because I want individuals to know their rights. A lot of them, if they're still on parole, they're not going to be able to vote. A lot of them that's off parole and probation, they can vote. They just don't know how to do it. because some of them have never voted before. This is me. I tell them this is me. I look older now, I'm heavier than back then. But this is me, federal prison number 219-62-009. And I would just drop it down. I give them time to pause. I said, but look at me now. Okay, now here I am today. See the difference in the transformation. And then they said, well, I said, yeah, I'm a convicted felon, but if I can do it, guess what? You can too.
I just had a debate for my government class, and we were debating about gun regulations and restrictions. And it actually really reminded me a lot about the presidential debate, because some of us actually are children, and we were talking over each other, and that just had a lot of similarities to the presidential debate, sadly. I think they could have been a lot more mature and a lot more cited on issues. I watched the debate between Joyce Elliott and French Hill the other day, and they were a lot more composed and a lot better with their words, I would say. With this debate for my class, we just did, I think we were all talking over each other a lot. And even though I may not have been on the side that I was arguing for, I still got really passionate about my side because we did a lot of research for it, and I feel really knowledgeable on it right now. And even though I may not agree with everything that I said, I still believe that the other side should get a chance to say what they believe. I think it makes me hopeful that hopefully a new generation is coming into politics. A lot of our politicians and presidents are in their 70s. I really hope politicians can become younger, I guess, as we go, because I know the presidential age is 35. I do think that younger people do need to get a lot more involved in voting, because this is going to affect us for the rest of our lives. Who we elect is really going to have a change. And a lot of people think that their vote doesn't matter, but that's not true.
Well, voting does matter, and every vote counts. And I wouldn't be mayor today, number one, without the Voters' Right Act of 1965, some 55 years later. But more importantly, representation. And representation of thought, perspective, and policies to be derived in real life. I plan on being able to just walk across City Hall to the Pulaski County Regional Building and get it done quickly, because I've already made up my mind on what I'm going to do, because I've taken time to study to the ballot, because it's not just the election process of candidates. There are also issues on the ballot, and that there's issues 1, 2, and 3 that I've taken time to research and will make my own decision when I get there on early voting election day. I'll have on my mask, be socially distant, have my hand sanitizer, and do what I need to do, just like when we go to the grocery store, or we go to have a lunch, or we go to any of the local businesses. Right now we have on our mask and we are socially distant. And we're conducting business, and we're actually having a little fun from time to time in a very safe way, and we can do the same for this election process.